What's happening, Sales Ascender? Sean back at you. In this video, I'm going to share with you 7 things you didn't know that your tongue is actually saying. Stay tuned. What's happening, Sales Ascender? Sean here back at you with another high-ticket tune-up. I hope you're ready for it. It is Tuesday. Yeah, it is Tuesday. I hope you had a great weekend. I hope you're into the sales game already and things are going wonderfully well for you. Today, we're going to cover 7 things that you didn't know your tongue is saying as we continue on with our body language series here. This one's valuable because these are some indicators that you can see during the sales conversation that are very simple and easy to dictate and catch, and you can call your prospect out. All right, we're talking all things tongue today. So let's just get into it. Tongue and cheek, right? What does it mean when the tongue hits the side of the cheek? So over here, over there, right? You can typically see this in your prospects when they're talking. And what does it mean? It means they're facing high stress. Now, it could be a smaller indicator or a bigger indicator, but what it does mean is that there is stress in the situation or they're trying to hide something from you. So if you see something that is going on where they have their tongue in their cheek and you're like, what is going on? It makes sense to stop and call it out. So as you're watching their body language, make sure and do this. Very important. A lot of people do this just to be playful or cheeky. You can see people go like, you know, when you when you see people do that, it can be meaning that they are playful or cheeky. Now, what is tongue jutting? Tongue jutting is where you go like you just jut your tongue right out between your teeth or your lips and bring it back in. It typically means I just got away with something. And it's almost a subconscious move, or it means, oops, I got caught, right? I remember specifically once upon a time, I went to Germany and I was with my mother-in-law and we went to eat foie gras, and we were sitting down and she'd never had foie gras before. And when it's cooked right, it's delicious. And I said, you should try this. And she goes, no. And she did a tongue jut. And I never forgot that tongue jut because I was like, oh man. And it didn't actually mean that she got away with something or she got caught with something, but it was universal in consistency, meaning, ooh, she didn't like it. That's what that one meant. And so it was an interesting thing that I just remember. I love her dearly, and it's a great memory that I have. And then the last one is this: tongue insults. When you stick your tongue out at somebody, what does that mean? Well, sticking out the tongue it means typically, this is again a universal indicator. It means disgust or dislike. So if somebody's sticking their tongue out at you, yeah, man, it would make sense to have a conversation a little bit deeper with them. Okay, so those are the first 3. Let's go on to the next couple. Tongue protruding. We all know Michael Jordan. You can see how he's infamous for sticking his tongue out. It can be used as a pacifier, and it also communicates I'm busy. Specifically in this little GIF, as you see here, Michael Jordan, what he's doing is right when he's doing a really intense dribbling maneuver and he's super focused or communicating, hey, I'm busy, watch this, you're not gonna be able to catch me, right? So that's when you see, I remember an accountant that I used to have, whenever they'd pull out their calculator and they'd stick their tongue out just a little bit right out of their mouth and typed in numbers into the calculator. And this meant that they were just simply like focused on it. Don't interrupt me. That's what it means, right? Tongue pressed into the palate. The tongue pressed up into the palate. What does this mean? Well, it exhibits struggle. So if you're trying to explain something and you see your prospect's mouth slightly open and you notice that the tongue is pressed up against the mouth, it's going to be a rare circumstance when you see this, but if you do happen to notice, this means that they are struggling. You can tell in their speech patterns. If they open their mouth and it takes a minute or a second longer for them to actually speak because they have to move the tongue, this means they may be exhibiting some struggle. This is typically common when people are taking tests, they're filling out applications they don't really want to fill out, or if they miss a shot in basketball, for example, is another exhibitor. So if you see your prospect like struggling to kind of grasp a concept or something that you're talking about and you notice the tongue is pressed against, it means they're struggling with the concept, and it makes sense to either do a speed check with them or say, hey, let me explain this from a different frame of mind. If you just know the signal and you know that you got to change the way that you're delivering the message so that they can interpret through their filter, this is one of those things that you got to look for, right? It's also used for comforting. So if they're in a place of overwhelm, overwhelm. A lot of times you see this when people are going into, say, coaching programs that are recorded, pre-recorded coaching programs, and they start to watch a bunch of videos. People can get super overwhelmed. You notice they'll typically have their mouth slightly open. If you're like on a Zoom and you're watching them do something, this is one that you will see sometimes. So again, it's used for comforting or they're exhibiting struggle. It does make sense to stop and speed check with them. Okay, last couple. Tongue licking teeth, right? When have you seen this, right? Of course, when the girl or the guy is trying to seduce the other person, that's one issue, but it also typically means dry mouth. It's due to nervousness, anxiety, or fear most of the time, and it is a universal stress reliever. So if any form, fit, or fashion of somebody's licking their teeth during a sales conversation and you're watching a prospect and you're going after like selling a high ticket program with them, this is meaning that they are exhibiting a lot of stress, and it would make some sense to stop and have that conversation with them. It also is a big sign of dehydration, so offering them some water may be valuable. And the last one for today is tongue darting. What does tongue darting mean when your prospect does is when you see your tongue dart back and forth, and you can't really see here. I can actually come back to the screen and make my face a little bigger so you can see this. If you see that, right? So I just wanted to share that with you because that's what tongue darting is. You've seen it in your cheeks. Now, of course, I'm over exaggerating, but very important for you to see that. It means that somebody is nervous, or more so, they're not being noticed. So if you ever see, I typically used to do this as a little kid when I wasn't noticed. I would find myself, my tongue would be flicking back and forth in my mouth and hitting either side of my cheek. And I didn't know what it meant was I just wasn't being noticed. I wanted attention. And so if you notice that with your prospect, let them speak. Like just close your mouth and say, I saw what's going on in your world over there. It seems like your brain's going crazy. And they'll just say, and now they're being noticed, right? And so observation, this is why a lot of sales psychology talks about repeating a prospect's objection because they feel noticed. Well, if you see the tongue darting, it's because they don't feel noticed. They say something to you like a question, and then you just can't carry on with a topic. They might do this really quick. So that's where you would find something like this. Or it's the meaning of whatever's being discussed cannot be determined. So again, two great things to look for. If you see the tongue darting back and forth, stop what you're doing and say, hey, does that make sense? And it's going to be in the context, but does that make sense? What we just talked about? Or come back from them and reframe it in another angle. Hey, does that make sense? Can I explain it from a different perspective or something like that? That's typically what I do when I see the tongue darting back and forth. So again, today was tongue, and I hope that was helpful for you in your sales careers. Definitely, I use this stuff all the time. Look for visual cues. Visual cues are 55% of the equation. It's very important for you to be focused on the body language. So we're going to keep going this week. I'm excited to be here with you guys today. Thank you so much for the time. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button, hit that like, share this to someone who might use it. And remember, there's a sales ascender inside of each and every single one of you. And I'm looking forward to seeing you next time.